Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. And we're here today with special guest, Matthew Mathison, who's here to share with us his new book, Leadership Orbit: Infinite Leadership Potential, Sustainable Progress. So are you looking to step into the role of a leader, but you're not quite sure where to start? Well, today's guest is going to share with us how to do just that. So Matthew Mathison is a seasoned entrepreneur, investor, and co-founder of MBL Partners with over 25 years of experience in transforming businesses across various industries. Known for his strategic insight and relentless drive, Matthew successfully built, operated, and revitalized companies on a global scale. His leadership journey, influenced by his background in athletics and his time on Wall Street, is guided by a commitment to continuously improve, innovate, and empowering others. So welcome to the show, Matthew Mathison.
Thank you, Marianne. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. What inspired you to write this?
You know, it's actually funny. The initial ideas of this book came from an epic failure. It was a colossal and very trying business episode, and I found myself in the center of quite a dramatic unwinding of a Chinese company that was listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And that failure led to a lot of different stories. And many people were like, Matt, you've got to write a book about all this, all of these crazy events that you're kind of in the middle of. And I thought that was a good idea, and I started writing it. And while I was writing it, a couple of years passed by, and it ended up morphing into this is just one of many moments in my life that kind of created this leadership orbit concept. And so it was an epic failure that kind of led to the premise of the book, and I'm really excited about it.
Well, I'm sure that's probably why so many people are resonating with this book, because how many people know about business failure? When you're in business, that's one of the things that keeps coming up every once in a while.
No, there's no doubt about it.
So I know you talk about leadership and that it's not scarce. And I'd love for you to share on that with us, because I think a lot of times when people look for good leaders in a business, it seems like they're having a hard time finding the right person.
Yeah, you know, it's really important to differentiate between a leader and leadership. And I do believe that one of the greatest and most scarcest resource in the world today is leaders. But leadership is not actually a scarce or limited resource. In fact, you, me, everyone around us have infinite potential to create and to help fulfill, what actually drives leaders to be, exhibiting leadership. And it's kind of like swimming in an ocean. If you need table salt and you're swimming in an ocean, man, there's a lot of salt around you, but it's hard to really, actually get it out there and get to use it. And so one of the greatest leadership lies is that leaders actually are a very few select group of individuals with superpowers or highly successful. That's one of the great leadership lies, and I believe each of us have in us this infinite potential to create leadership and this impact for others around us. And so one of the tenets of Leadership Orbit is just that. I actually believe that many of our greatest problems are going to be solved as more and more individuals kind of gain their own, confidence in themselves. And then that kind of leads to helping others and kind of creates this orbit that I talk about.
Well, why don't you share the concept of the leadership orbit with us? Because I found it to be so impactful.
So when I think about leadership orbit, I actually go to how I define what thriving is. I actually define thriving as this a mental, emotional, and physical state of advancing and progressing with purpose. And when you think about it like that, as opposed to, oh, I'm thriving when I'm feeling really happy, or I'm thriving when I'm really successful. Instead, if you think about it as progress with purpose and advancing, now you go back to this concept of an orbit. There's really kind of two ways to think about orbiting. It's this constant, um, moving around some center of gravity, but you keep doing laps and you're orbiting, and it's a constant movement. And I really believe that leadership orbit combines this concept of progress with purpose and overcoming constantly. And I believe that's what life's about. That's what business is about. That's what your personal life's about. It's just about getting better, staying active, staying in motion, and continuing. And if people continue on with a positive attitude, a lot of good comes of it. And even when you're in those moments that might feel scary or difficult or trying, if your attitude can be, look, this is actually going to help me get better and stronger, and I will be able to continue to move through it. That's what I believe our society is short on. And many of us are looking for those types of individuals that can portray that enthusiasm, that hope, that optimism. And that's what leadership orbit's about.
Well, I like that caveat that you added to that, is that I'll be able to move through this. And that's such I think, a profound piece, because a lot of times people do, when things are difficult, they're like, well, I don't know if I can really be positive, but to think about, okay, I can move through this. I mean, how empowering is that?
Exactly. And the more you do it, and the funny thing about life is we have lots of opportunities, right, to move through hard things. And the more you do that, and the more you reflect on that, and the more you actually see with clarity how you made it through, or what were the steps that helped, or who helped you get through, and what did they exhibit, right? The more you can reflect on that, the more the next time trouble comes, which it will, you can actually view it as part of the journey, as opposed to something that is just terrible and horrible, and how am I ever going to make it through?
So, how does leadership orbit differ from conventional leadership approaches?
I think a lot of leadership approaches center around this, hey, I need a corner office, I need a title, or I need to hit some milestone, to be crowned a leader. And there's either leadership books or other writings that talk about reaching those pinnacles. Leadership orbit is actually about the journey itself. It's actually about breaking things down into bite-sized, doable, achievable milestones and goals, and gaining true momentum from that. It's about taking pride and ownership in that journey. It's about helping lift others along the way. That's the difference in the approach with leadership orbit, and I think it actually reaches more of more. It reaches out more. It reaches more of the masses, which that's what we're hoping to accomplish. And so it starts at a very individual level, but it gets to scale quickly with the one, right? And if the one is lifting itself, and that one then kind of creates this influence that helps lift the others one by one, that's really where powerful scale can happen.
So, I understand that you've built and turned around multiple billion-dollar companies. So, what's the biggest misconception about power and influence in corporate leadership?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that somehow the leaders that have that role or that title either have all the answers, or are going to save you, are going to like make things happen. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. I actually believe the best businesses in the world actually created in the foundation of the individual contributors, and that expands literally to everyone. I think the best cultures make every single person, regardless of title, regardless of role, regardless of pay grade, regardless of education, it makes everyone know how to contribute and also feel very good about their contributions. And so I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that I've seen.
It seems like everyone wants that office with the windows and everything, but when they get there, it's a whole different animal.
Yeah, I talk a lot about, the destination fallacy. And it is we all fall victim to it. We all fall, we all get entrapped in thinking about, again, whether you're reaching that corner office or reaching some business milestone, somehow that's when you'll start to feel fulfilled or feel like you've arrived. And when you get there, you don't feel that. And so that's why focusing on kind of the path and the steps, and the individual, requirements along the way is such a more fulfilling, more happy, more rewarding way to go. And then, when you find fulfillment in the journey itself, that's truly when you're in that orbit that I described, that self-sustaining, constantly progressing orbit, which really creates a lot of optimism and hope when you find yourself there, as opposed to a destination fallacy where you're always just trying to reach the next milestone, and then once you get there you realize, oh, there's another milestone.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Matthew Mathison in regards to his new book, Leadership Orbit: Infinite Leadership Potential, Sustainable Progress. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
Are you an author, speaker, or expert who is looking for more publicity? Visit radioguestlist.com and sign up for free interview requests from shows looking for guests. Radio Guest List is the #1 free booking resource for radio, podcasts, and TV talk shows who are looking for experts like you right now. Visit radioguestlist.com and sign up today to get the visibility you deserve.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special. When you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed, and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
It's one thing to become attached to your perfect home, but what do you do when that home becomes attached to you? A family in dire need of a fresh start, a mysterious house tied to the past. Buried deep within the foundation of the old Far Hill Manor lies a centuries-old secret. Dark forces or something stronger just waiting to be discovered. Caretaker, a supernatural thriller by breakout authors R.J. Halpert.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guest Matthew Mathison in regards to his new book, Leadership Orbit: Infinite Leadership Potential, Sustainable Progress. In your book, you're so really kind of, I would say, very authentic in the way that you're writing and what you're proposing. And you share about, you've built billion-dollar companies and handled major corporation crises. Yet you say that success comes from all these tiny little actions. Can you share a specific example of how a small habit created massive change?
Man, lots of examples of this. One comes to mind. There was a very precarious. A company found itself in a very precarious situation, and it was a smaller company, but still sizable. I mean, this is tens of millions of dollars of revenue a year, lots of transactions, and it was very under a lot of duress and stress. And a very small and simple habit that we created that ultimately led to saving this company and enabling it to thrive through lots of different economic cycles was we simply started to track cash uses and cash sources. So how much money a company was bringing in cash wise and how much money a company was spending cash wise every single week, the old fashioned way. We literally had a massive, nasty, ugly spreadsheet, and we literally were manually tracking cash in and cash out. And we then got the entire management team together, and ultimately we signed off on what we thought that would look like for 52 weeks. And every single week, we filled it out by hand. And again, lots of companies and technology and solutions today make that more automated. But when a company's in crisis, sometimes you have to go all the way back to just a very simple, basic thing. And literally by writing, so to speak, writing the cash in, cash out weekly for 52 weeks, so many things started to change. Individuals started to just find ways to save money. The sales force found ways to sell different products. It just created just this massive change that looking back on it, man, it made a huge cultural and actual difference. And yet the small habit was just simply, hey, once a week, we're going to write out where did the cash go? Where did it come in? And where did we spend it? And that one small habit created massive change. That's just one example. But I do believe when you're trying to create massive change, sometimes you get overwhelmed in that, and really need to start breaking things down into very small, simple things, and then big improvements can happen over time.
What a great team building experience too, to get that buy-in from all the employees that, hey, I'm behind my company.
Well, it wasn't easy, as with any change, as with any new habit. You're always going to have resistance. But at the end of the day, to your point, when some start to buy in and you start to feel the effects of it, those that were resistant or scared or nervous or maybe even disagreed, they ultimately come along.
I love that. What a great exercise. One of the small habits that you mentioned that I thought was so empowering is mastering your minutes. And I would love for you to share that with our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, time is truly our it's the one thing that we actually all, it's purely fair. We all have the same amount of time in a given day. And some of us might be taller, some of us might be faster, some of us might be smarter, right? But at the end of the day, we all have the same amount of time. What we do with that time really, really matters. And so, as I described in the book, in order to master your time, you better at least know what you're actually spending your time doing. And that's kind of the first small step to getting better time management, is actually taking an inventory of how you're spending your time. And then once you have an inventory, now you can start to make adjustments. Well, I seem to be spending a lot of time scrolling on X, or I'm doing this activity a lot, and I didn't realize how much time is spent on that. And if you're finding yourself too busy, or man, I just don't have time, if you have a real inventory of how your time's spent, you can actually make some of those substitutions, those adjustments. And it is a powerful thing. I know time management is something that it feels overwhelming to so many people, but this is definitely one small habit that anyone can and should start with that can really make a difference.
For our listeners that are wanting to make a shift and become more of a leader within their company, or to show up as a leader, what should they do?
It's such a great question. If they're asking that question or feeling that thought, I believe they're already in the top quartile of performers of a business. But very specifically, one thing that I believe anyone at any role or level in any company can do is take the thing that you're spending the most amount of time manually doing and then think about how you break that thing down into its components and find a way to automate it. If each employee at every level of the company, whether that's mailroom to CEO and everything in between, if they do that one thing annually and they actually make a difference in helping to automate something that they're manually doing, that is going to make a huge difference with their company. And what might be counterintuitive in this is if you're working and one of your jobs is just manual, it just requires your effort. It kind of feels counterintuitive to automate that. You almost feel like you're putting yourself out of work. And yet those individuals that do that consistently over time actually become the most valuable leaders and employees of organizations. And so that's one thing I would recommend doing.
We have so many people that are reflecting on maybe their unfulfilled, 2024 resolutions. What's one small habit you would recommend for people to start with to make a massive difference in 2025?
I would say that I'm going to give you two. You asked for one, but I'm going to give you two small things. Go into the new year and choose one pain point and one pleasure point. On the pain point, the thing that's nagging at you the most, write that down and simply spend real time breaking that thing, whatever that thing is. I want to get healthier. I want to learn how to model. I want to, whatever that thing is, it's a pain point. It's nagging at you. It's causing real consternation. Go right at that thing and then, but don't focus on the thing. Now then break down what are some actual daily things you could do that could help alleviate that over time. Come up with the small habit and do it. And then on the pleasure point, again, pick something that you might have resisted or held back or been scared to go do, but you've always wanted to do it. Again, it could be an education thing. It could be a talent thing. Whatever it is, pick some pleasure point, again, and then break something down into one small habit you could do daily that could help you eventually get to do that, and go into the new year with one small daily habit, focusing on solving or reducing or eliminating a pain point, and then one small habit focused on, achieving and ultimately accomplishing a pleasure point. And that would be my recommendation.
Those are great recommendations. I love those. Well, Matthew, where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about Leadership Orbit?
They can just go to the website leadershiporbit.com. I also have a personal website, MatthewMathison.com, but I would love for them to engage, give feedback. I would love to create this movement with Leadership Orbit and hear how lots of us, who may not feel like we're a leader by title or by assignment, actually become some of the most impactful leaders in the world, one by one.
Well, Matthew, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Marianne, I really appreciate the time and the opportunity. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Matthew. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Leadership Orbit: Infinite Leadership Potential, Sustainable Progress. Leadership Orbit is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and everywhere books are sold. And remember, support our indie bookstores. If you don't see it on the shelf, just ask for them to order it. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.